What's going on, you guys? It is Sunday night, and as usual, it is time for the Going Broadway podcast, but it is a special episode. It is Alex. It is Cole. Plus one, and we'll get to that plus one in just a second. Cole, what's going on?
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the greatest wrestling podcast ever. We sincerely appreciate you joining us this evening, and when we have a guest, which here in these next handful of weeks, we have several of them, we like to jump straight to the guest. So I am excited for tonight. And as some of you have thrown in the chat already, tonight may be a little undisputed. But anywho, Alex, why don't you
that could not have been more cheesy.
Fill them in on who we got with us this evening.
Gosh. Oh, Cole's the king of cheese. All right. Real quick before we bring in our guest, we always preface by saying if you're not familiar with us, we're not a dirt sheet podcast. We're not about drama. So if that's what you've come here for, you've come here for the wrong reason. But if you've come here to listen to us talk some wrestling, then you have come to the right place. That being said, we want to bring in our guest right now. He is, in my opinion, one of the most vastly underrated wrestlers of all time. Just listen to these accolades. He is a two-time IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champion, a three-time Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champion, Ring of Honor Television Champion, two-time NXT Tag Team Champion, two-time NXT Tag Team of the Year winner, and PWI's Tag Team of the Year. In 2019, he's also the host of the Undisputed podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Fish. Bobby, thanks so much for joining us. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. How about yourselves?
Hey,
doing great. Doing great.
Nice. Nice. Nobody will listen. Nobody listens when I complain. I complain all the time.
I mean, who doesn't? Who doesn't complain all the time? But
right.
Anyway, like Cole said, we just jump right in. So, Cole, why don't you kick us off?
All right, so cool. So, actually, before the show, we had a little bit of banter, and as I mentioned, we kind of like to jump into the current stuff right now that's going on in your career, and maybe work our way back to some of the older stuff. So let's just kick it off by kind of seeing like what's going on with you right now. You know, we've seen you in Impact a little bit. We've seen you in New Japan a little bit.
Yeah.
What's it looking like right now for Bobby Fish? Where are you going to pop up next? And are there any contracts on the table that you could tell us about?
At the moment, I'm a free agent, so I can pop up literally anywhere and everywhere, which is kind of cool. Because it's not been that way for like a decade. So it's and definitely like when this freedom came about, some things fell in my lap, like a professional boxing fight on the Floyd Mayweather undercard in Dubai, of all places, you know. So if I was under contract to somebody at that time, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So to for something like that to just kind of fall in my lap, and now some other possibilities, just enjoying the freedom, you know, not having to ask permission, and got a pretty full schedule, like you had mentioned. Popped up on Impact, I've been doing some New Japan stuff. So interesting times, to say the least.
I saw on Twitter that you're headed over to Europe in April.
Yes, April 22nd, 1PW. Gonna lock horns with an old New Japan nemesis, Will Ospreay. So looking forward to 1PW does a good job over there. So yeah, and looking forward to just going back over to the UK. Always enjoy myself there. Yeah.
So there's the old adage of quote unquote never say never. Is there any likelihood that you might ever return to WWE or NXT by chance?
I mean, anything's possible. At this point, like I said, I'm enjoying the freedom and not entirely sure what is what's to come, so not having to ask permission or get clearance to do something, even like this interview would have at a time a year ago would have had to have been cleared through somebody, and so it's just nice as an adult, bill as a bill paying adult,
Right.
to not have to ask permission.
Yeah, we won't mention any specific names, but we completely relate with what you just said. So
The permission side of things.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it, that 100%, and you're paying for it, so it's a trade-off. And so I get both sides. I've been on both sides. So it just kind of is what it is, but tomato, tomato. And right now, I don't know. I'm whatever one I wasn't before.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sticking with the more current stuff. So about roughly for a year, you were with AEW,
Yes, sir.
and you came in there. You mind telling us kind of what conversations took place, who brought you in, how that process kind of went, for you to join them for that stint?
Well, Tony Khan had an idea after Sammy Guevara had won the TNT title, of a way to bring me in. We did something on Twitter, and I say it was Tony's idea because he's the one who pitched it to me, and then we kind of went from there, and the opportunity for like a more long-term thing was an option. So we did that. Obviously, that brought me back into a company where Adam Cole was currently under contract as well. So there's a link there. Later, Kyle would come in. When I had gotten there to begin with, an old friend of mine, Jeff Jones from Ring of Honor days, he works for AEW as well. And we brought back the old Red Dragon theme music, and it just kind of fit like an old pair of jeans. So we just rolled with it from there, and it was a good time.
So initially it was only supposed to be a one-off then.
No, we discussed further, like it was set right away that I would probably do something long term, but we just we had the idea first to come in the Forbidden Door and all that stuff. First match with Sammy and to go from there. I mean, if I remember correctly, we did have some more long-term stuff set, but creatively that was kind of the inroad.
For sure. So again, we kind of had some pre-show banter, and it kind of depends on who you get your news from, as far as the internet wrestling community, so to speak.
Yes, sir.
Depending on who you read, different how can I phrase this? Different scenarios were mentioned as far as you leaving AEW. Overall, would you say your departure from AEW was amicable? Could we see you back in AEW at any point?
Yeah, I would say it was amicable. We just didn't see the same numbers. I will say also that it probably didn't hurt or help, depending on how you're looking at it. With Adam and Kyle were both banged up. I was actually, as out of the Undisputed Era for a good portion of the past year. I'm the only one that's been healthy. So you couldn't really see the three or the four of us anywhere collectively. So yeah, I 100% believe it to be amicable. If I'm wrong, yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility. But as far as I know, and if I ever see anybody from there, we always talk, and even Tony. So I don't think it's anything other than amicable. Yeah.
So I got to bring this up because as fans, I think we were kind of maybe expecting a little bit more when you got to AEW. So for me, it was a little bit weird. You mentioned Adam Cole being there. You mentioned Kyle coming in. Both of them leaving NXT, they were feuding with one another. So they just got out of this massive feud and then brought into AEW as if like nothing kind of changed. But I want to focus on the fact that you and Kyle O'Reilly are back together. You brought up the old Red Dragon music's back. Everything's good. Do you feel like they missed an opportunity with you and Kyle with your guys' stand? I know Kyle gets a little banged up. We're looking at injuries, but was there bigger plans? Was there anything talked or discussed, or do you just feel like it was kind of a missed opportunity at all with what could have been with you, Kyle, and even Adam?
I mean, I'm a fan of all of ours, right? So obviously, if you don't maximize the opportunity with us, I'm going to feel like we left some money on the table. So yeah, I think that there could have been more done. I think injuries happen. I think, you learn to be patient in this business, and we were being patient. And then the injury bug created some difficulties that I don't think were foreseen by anybody. So it did upset some plans. I know there were certainly different directions that were tossed around and were likely to come to fruition. But then, real life got in the way of our fictional pro wrestling world.
Gotcha.
So yeah, things just kind of, didn't pan out, unfortunately.
Was there ever any discussion about putting the AEW tag belts on you and Kyle?
Yeah, but never, like, it was just, we were always in the conversation, that was a possibility. I mean, I looked at it and just saw like such possibilities with tag team wrestling, and tag team wrestling's been overlooked for many, many years, and doesn't always get a fair shake when it comes to WWE, and it's believed that Vince doesn't really care for it. So that's why over the years, but like, I was a huge NWA fan growing up. So the Crockett Cup and the Crockett year, like that was, destination viewing for me. So I really thought when I was looking at AEW, like when I had first gotten there before Kyle had come in, but when the Ring of Honor purchase and stuff happened, and you had guys like the Briscoes going to be circulating, and we have a history there with them, and other teams, the Bucks, obviously, FTR. I just thought there was an opportunity for like a Crockett Cup pay-per-view, like an all tag team pay-per-view, or at the very least like a tournament or something, just something along those lines, where we could pay tribute to some of the tag teams of old, the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express, and God, I mean, the British Bulldogs, and the list goes on, right? But I thought it would have really been a cool modern spin to put on things. I mean, Christ, we had Arn and Tully Blanchard in the in the locker room, like I don't know. I'm a big fan of both Arn and Tully. So yeah, I thought that there was some money left on the table in that regard. We could have done something cool there.
We're totally on the same wavelength. I'm an old school wrestling fan, so
Yeah.
I'm eating all this stuff up for sure.
Yeah.
So let's transition a bit. We're gonna talk about you starting out in the business, and then we'll cover Ring of Honor and NXT.
Okay.
Being in the St. Louis area, I'm partial to anyone and anything associated with, anyone from St. Louis wrestling, etc. Partner Kyle, he had, having lived in St. Louis for many years,
Yeah.
but also someone who helped train you. Harley Race is from the area. Can you share anything that Harley imparted to you? Any particular stories or anything in particular that he taught you that's maybe stuck with you to this day, or just any Harley stories in general?
Harley, I'd say more than anything, like Harley impressed upon me like the need to, I don't really know how to phrase this, but like, because he came from a different day and age, and like I don't know how colorful the language can get here, but like, be a man, be a fucking man. You'd think that sometimes that wouldn't be such a difficult thing, but like Harley was a man's man, and he treated this business as such, and like his word was his word. And in this business, there's just a lot of I don't know, there's a lot of shenanigans sometimes, and like a guy like Harley, probably pull out a pistol and handle his business. And I'm not condoning anybody pulling out a pistol these days, but
I agree. The stories that are out there are just so wild. I mean,
yeah, and Harley, that's I think that's one of the things I took away from Harley was like, very much like what I took away from my father, like be a man and conduct yourself like a man, handle man's business. Don't be the opposite of that. Don't be one of these locker room politicians and manipulating and just don't be a shitbag.
Right. For sure. So continuing kind of looking at your career. So roughly the first 10 years of your career was mostly in American independence, as well as a stint in Japan as part of Pro Wrestling Noah. During this time, early on in your career, can you put into maybe your own words what the grind was like, especially being in a Japanese promotion where strong style was like the style, if you will?
Yeah, the grind was real. Through Harley is how the people from Noah discovered me. They started bringing me over. That was my first big break. That was the first actual real money I made. I learned how to do this business in Japan. So that's why the influence is so heavy in my style. Like, I was a martial artist previous to working in Japan. So I had a heavy influence there to begin with. So it was actually perfect for me to go cut my teeth in Japan. I don't know, at the time you're on the come up and you're learning. And there was definitely a learning curve there. I was, for a good portion of my career over there, was probably going too hard too often, but it was just, it was kind of go along to get along, because that's what everybody else was doing too. And dare I say, may not have done my body any favors over the years, but was, just was the style we went hard. And I think it shows in my work to this day that there's not a lot of daylight, and I like it that way. It's supposed to be snug. We didn't get into this to it's not ballet. We're not dancing, we're I want it to be respected as much of a sport as it can be, because, you know, I've been an athlete my entire life, and that's why I got into, you know, how I kind of veered into this. So yeah, those were tough years, but those were years that I wouldn't trade for anything.
Awesome. So you made your way to Ring of Honor in 2012, formed Red Dragon with Kyle shortly after winning the Ring of Honor Tag Championship for the first time. Can you share with our viewers and our listeners, before we go any further, where the name Red Dragon came from?
So the Red Dragon name, their idea was to team Kyle and I together. We definitely knew each other. We had wrestled against each other in Evolve prior to that. Known each other for years. We're always very friendly, but, you know, I don't think either of us knew how well we would kick it off, and the chemistry that we would have, not only in the ring, but like just as friends, as human beings. The name, I was reading a book at the time. This guy, Jason Ellis, he has a radio show, podcast. I know he was a skateboarder, professional skateboarder. He's done some crazy shit too, and I think he's had a couple fights or something. But I was reading his book, and the first skate group that he joined as a pro, they were called Red Dragons. And that's something that they would say and I don't know why, it just happened to be, you know, I'm I'm a man of faith, so I think that you know, the higher power at times kind of lines things up for us. It's, you know, things happen on his time, not ours. And that name just kind of stuck with me. And Kyle and I were both martial artists, and that we knew that was going to kind of be heavy gimmick wise for this team that we were starting to fill out. And I thought, because we were definitely heels, we were put together to bring Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards back together as a team, the American Wolves, to give them reason. So knowing that we were going to be heels, I just thought, like, well, Red Dragon to me came across pretty heelish, especially for two guys that were going to be, you know, very martial arts influenced. And then Davey's also, you know, babyface, but does the strong martial arts base too. And here we are. I don't know. Red Dragon to me sounded like a name of two guys who thought they were way cooler than they are, in like a martial artist sense. And I thought fans could actually, like, I thought that we could derive some heat from it. Like, you know, and we, you know, we were dressing in, you know, scarves and, you know, parted our hair, boys regular style, and tight jeans. And, you know, we were turning up the annoying as high as we could get it. And Red Dragon was just kind of, you know, part of it, and it stuck. And then just so happened that the you know, Davey Richards and Red Dragon and R&D, and like I said, I believe in a higher power. So I don't know. Just things kind of fell into place.
That's a great story. I love it.
Well, yeah. I got to take a little side journey here for just a second, because I think we have a mutual contact. I could be completely wrong here.
Okay.
He ended up, so he's in Florida. Did you ever go to a church in Oviedo?
I did.
Do you know Jason? Do you know Jason Shingleton?
I do. Yes,
okay.
I do.
So
we were in a group, a men's group.
Yeah, so
together.
So I'm a youth pastor. Jason Shingleton and I went to the same Bible college.
Wow.
He's in the family of one of my good friends and stuff.
Wow.
He'd always make
what a good fella.
He would always make me a little jealous with some of these Bible studies he'd be telling me about, and I was like, man, I gotta come down there and visit, or or whatever. So
Yeah.
I had to take a little side journey because I thought you were one of the people he had named.
Yeah.
That was in that group. So that's super cool.
That was quite the group, and it really it played a huge role in my walk and my journey, from then before then to now. But yeah, there were a few of us in in that group, from the wrestling world for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
I had to take a little side journey because
Yes, sir. No
I thought
worries.
that was there. So,
Yeah,
anyways,
fond memories for sure.
So Alex mentioned you and Kyle, you guys were going to win the ROH Tag Championships in 2013.
Mhm.
You defeated the Briscoes. So you've already kind of mentioned it earlier, but we just wanted to take a minute. If you could share with us any memories about Jay Briscoe, how he helped your career, any special stories, anything like that.
Yeah, I mean the Briscoes. There's nothing I can say that hasn't already been said, and how authentic they are, and obviously, like, I'm not going to belabor the point of how talented they were from a wrestling standpoint, but they were certainly huge, parts of helping to make Kyle and I legitimate, like to win the tag titles from I mean, they were more Ring of Honor than the name Ring of Honor, like, I mean, they are synonymous. They are the quintessential Ring of Honor guys. They're also guys that, like, I got trained initially by Tony DeVito, and the Carnage crew was part of the early Ring of Honor, like, veterans. And I got exposed to the Briscoes early on, in that the formative years for them, when I was just going to those shows and I wasn't wrestling. I was working indies and stuff, but I wasn't ready for Ring of Honor. But I would go and kind of do the young boy thing. We were DeVito's guys. And so I saw Mark and Jay all those years earlier, and they were, much younger, etc. And then to come back, whatever, like 10 years later, and have an opportunity to get established as this tag team with one of my best friends, Kyle. And, for them to be, do the honors for us was crazy. And you didn't need to even, like, it took a lot of pressure off you because the Briscoes couldn't have a bad match. So it was like, all you had to do was show up, like, put your boots on and get in the ring. Mark and Jay will take care of everything else. I think it's interesting, the timing of this portion of the interview coming up, because going to the services for Jay, and even seeing the way Mark has handled himself, since the tragedy. I mean, it's just watching the faith and watching that family walk out their faith. It's one thing to talk about it, but I mean, they truly are it. There's no questioning with them. And I saw that with Papa Briscoe and their mother, and with Mark, and it's still to this day, any glimpse I see of them, they know Jay's in a better place, and it's inspiring to see that sort of faith, because I think we all, even as believers, I think you still, faith is it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
So concurrently during your time in ROH, you also competed in New Japan, winning the 2014 Super Junior Tag Tournament. Shortly after, defeated Alex Shelley and Kushida for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship for the first time. You and Kyle would go on to have a number of matches with the Young Bucks, including a number of victories over them, one of which began your second reign with the Junior Heavyweight Tag Champs. Can you share with us the level of importance that the Bucks have had in your career, over all these years?
Huge. Ironically enough, I wrestled. It was me and Silas Young way back a few years before that. We wrestled on a Ring of Honor show against the Bucks when the Bucks were still kind of coming up. And that was one of the interludes I had with Ring of Honor that didn't turn into, continued booking, because at the time it just didn't work out. So to come back years later and Kyle and I are getting established, and we got rubbed from the guys like the Briscoes and the American Wolves, and we were starting to be taken serious. And then a huge step in that was going over and starting to work for New Japan. And I had worked for like 8 years at that point for Noah. So Japan was a place that, I had checked that box, but was happy to be, moving to New Japan, who was doing, kick-ass business at that time. And to, for Kyle to come over his first time going to Japan, and the Bucks, they were already kind of getting a little bit of a run there. I think they were Bullet Club at the time, and there were plans, for them that had come together that really kind of helped kickstart them getting over even bigger than they already were. And kind of the same outline was put in place for us. We came over, we won the Junior Tag League. We won the titles. We ended up getting into like a little bit of I'd say for like a 2-year run, where we circulated. We were never very far from the Bucks, and the Bucks were never very far from us. We had other teams like Kushida and Alex Shelley in and out also. And then there was a tag league where it was Seidel and Ricochet were tagging. Rocky and Trent. We just, it was like we had such a good stable of teams there that everybody could trade in and out, and it kept things interesting and fun. And it took us through some of the Super Juniors where we would work singles, and those couple of years were awesome in New Japan, and we had trading time with New Japan and Ring of Honor. Man, such important years in our career, and I'd say the Bucks too.
So you mentioned being a singles wrestler as well, so that transitions perfectly to my next question. Jumping ahead a little, in May of 2016, you'd win your first singles championship, the Ring of Honor Television Championship, defeating Tomohiro Ishii at Global Wars. So at this point in your career, May of 2016, you just won the TV title. How much would you say this boosted your confidence as a pro wrestler? I don't think there were necessarily clear-cut plans for me. I think Kyle and Adam, from a long-term booking standpoint, that was known. They're not known, but Kyle and I needed to kind of do less tagging so that could kind of fill itself out. And I don't know if they knew exactly what to do with me. But I set out to not force anybody's hand, but just to like, yeah, you're going to do something with me. You're going to find something to do with me. I'm going to just be undeniable in that way. And I feel like I set out to do that and did that. And I think that they eventually, the powers that be in Ring of Honor at the time, they saw the opportunity for what it was, and they pulled the trigger on it. And the TV title, I had some got a chance to work with Jay Lethal, which was incredible. Remember doing some really cool stuff with Silas Young too.
Roddy, Roddy and I, before he left to go to NXT, we had a good little run with, about the TV title and stuff. Eventually dropped it to a young Will Ospreay, who was just kind of finding his groove at the time. So, it was awesome.
Which is crazy to think. I mean, that's just been 7 years ago, and just what he's become now is just insane.
Yeah, for sure. Talented fucker. Very talented.
So in early 2017, it was reported that you had re-signed with ROH, but you would actually announce your departure from the company in March. Was it ever true that you re-signed, and what did that factor into your decision to leave in any way in that regard?
No, I had not re-signed. I was in conversation about re-signing. The direction I thought most likely was going to be a heavier New Japan schedule, and then a lighter Ring of Honor schedule. Possibly not an exclusive contract to anybody in the States, but just an exclusive New Japan. I don't know. I mean, it was, there were different options being entertained. And then, things went, they went the way they went.
So I want to get this timeline right, because whenever we prep for any of our interviews, we shared with you before we went live, kind of peeling back the curtain for our viewers. You put together some questions and timelines and things like that.
Sure.
Literally about an hour or so ago, I actually went back and watched your match with Adam Cole. It was Manhattan Mayhem. You had a shot for the Honor World Championship, but that was April of 2017. When I did my research, again, whether it was true or not, I don't know. You can clarify, but it said that you announced your departure in March, but then you had this match in April. Can you give any clarification to if you announced your departure, if that's even?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I have I'm lucky. I honestly probably couldn't tell you what I had for lunch yesterday, let alone. I don't remember exactly what the chronology of all of that was.
Sure.
But I know that with Cole, I took it upon myself to try and make that match as big of a thing as I could, because it was good for Ring of Honor. It was good for me. It was good for all parties involved. So I did a lot of my own promo stuff on the side with that. And the whole time I was talking with the office about contract stuff. But again, it's pro wrestling, and numbers a lot of times are not agreeable. So, opportunities are what they are. I was trying to field all possibilities at the time. And I, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know what I announced and when I announced it.
No, that's all good.
To be honest.
So now we're gonna jump to the black and gold NXT. I gotta say, Undisputed Era for me, that was NXT, and I think, so many people that watch this, listen to this, would agree with me when I say that. So Triple H himself confirmed your signing specifically in July of 2017. When you were brought in, can you share with us who was part of those discussions and what made you excited to join NXT?
NXT at that time, I think, had grown when it came to guys like Kevin Steen Fergal Devitt, El Generico, all these guys that were never supposed to go to WWE. And here they were. And the takeovers at that time, I remember like there was one specifically in Brooklyn, and they were just electric, you know. It was like something like so the whatever you want to call it, the main roster pay-per-views and stuff, they have always been what they are. But there was something different about NXT at that time, and you couldn't argue against it that had become the place to be. And I think just prior to that, the place to be, was like a kind of Ring of Honor, kind of New Japan. If you were on both, which Kyle and I were fortunate enough to, same with Roddy, same with Cole, like in their own way, like, yeah, that was kind of the place to be. But the NXT was taking that spot, and it had just become like those takeovers. Like I said, they were downright electric, and they were the right. They hit the sweet spot, They were 7 or 8 matches, sold out building, people going fucking nuts, stories that converged at the right time. Interesting characters that had layers and the layers were real, like Kevin was Kevin.
Yeah.
And Fergal, he was, Finn Balor, the people were being themselves and getting over, and it was awesome. So yeah, to go to NXT at that time, super excited. William Regal was somebody that I've always been a huge fan of, and just the way that he did our business, guys like him and Fit Finley, just diehard, just men's men, dare I say, Harley Race-esque. So yeah, I mean, it was exciting to know that I was going a place like that, a place where, Fit Finley was, and William Regal and Triple H, and fuck, man, Shawn Michaels, like, come on.
Right. Well, yeah. And I think what everyone loved the most is because now when you see in the wrestling community is you either like really good wrestling or you like really good storylines. And it seems like whatever one you're more of, you trend towards a certain company that does that. And I felt like NXT had a really good balance of both. Like the matches were fire. Every match, like you turned on NXT, even just the weekly programming. You turned it on and you were like, oh, I know that there's going to be a good match at least. There's going to be a main event or something that's going to be just absolutely phenomenal. The storylines the promos are good. Like you said, not only are you getting a huge influx of the indie guys coming in, right? But then you still had in-house people that they were growing, grooming, doing different things. And so it was such a special time. And Alex is actually sporting one. We had a shirt that kind of came out of the Alex Cole or Adam Cole baby.
I see that.
Alex Cole baby on one show, and we couldn't miss the opportunity.
No,
Pro
I don't blame you.
Won't let us post that design, but
that's all right. That's all right. I dig it.
So,
listen, it's that you don't want to leave that money on the table, boys.
we had some fun with it, but so obviously we got to talk about the Undisputed Era. Man, this team, I mean, ask anybody in a wrestling community, they were putting you guys up there in like top 5 of all time. I mean, conversations were just being had of what you guys resembled from other past teams, but just the special chemistry that you guys had in that group. Can you tell us about how it, I mean, obviously we kind of know the background of your guys' relationships and in the past of different companies, but how did it really come together? Who kind of helped put it together, the name, the push, all that stuff. Can you kind of just walk us through the beginning stages of Undisputed Era and how special it was?
Yeah. I think the reason why it was so special is because the four of us, first the three of us, but eventually the four of us, and even when it was the three of us, Roddy was still, behind the scenes. We were all tight. We were four best friends. Like as far as I've got my friends that I grew up with and stuff, but when it comes to my professional life, I spent my career, doing pro wrestling. Those are my three best friends in this industry. And if somebody said to us years prior, like, hey, you guys are going to go to WWE and then they're going to put you together, we'd be like, get the fuck out of here.
Right.
No, they're not. Because even at that time, like there were different iterations, Kyle and I tagged together, Cole and Kyle tagged together. Roddy and Cole got thrown together a few times here and there, but there was no reason to believe that we would become a group. It was Triple H's brainchild. Hunter totally put it together. Sean became a big proponent of it, and I feel like we became their guys. I know from just being a fan, because I hate the word mark. But being a fan, I know the influence that Ric Flair and the Crockett years had on the fandom of Shawn Michaels and Triple H. I know how much they appreciated that time frame. I did too. I love, like I said before, I loved the NWA. So to become this 4-person group with three of my best friends, we're all similar in a way in the way that we approached pro wrestling. Like I think people would look at it and say like, oh yeah, they're all four of them are technically sound. All four of them can, first and foremost can go in the ring. So, toss around whatever similarities you want to at that point. But I feel like, Hunter saw us as a group a certain way. And Sean, and we became their guys, and proud to have been that. Proud of that time in our careers and in the history of what would become, NXT. So proud to have played the role that we were, and so grateful to have been given the opportunity to fill the role we did.
So sort of an improvised question, so to speak.
Please.
You mentioned, it started out with you, Kyle and Adam. Roddy joined later on, but was it always the plan for Roddy to become the fourth? Or if not, how did that?
No, I think so like the first War Games, Roddy was actually on the other team. Him and AOP. And there weren't really plans. And it's above my pay grade if there were some kind of plan underneath. I don't know if Hunter or Sean or somebody saw it that way, but I tore my ACL. And so I was out for a bit, and they knew that I was going to be out, and we were really catching our momentum at that time. So that the timing was, pretty shitty. And I think we were rolling into WrestleMania season. So the idea was to add Roddy so that they could still tag. And then it could still be a group, and pretty much pull me out, put Roddy in, keep me visible so that I don't just disappear.
Right.
And then, work it out with the four of us once I'm healthy. And it really couldn't have gone better, because I feel like when Roddy came in and I went out, it changed the dynamic, but it didn't hurt it or help it. It was great in a different way, but just as great. And then when I came back, there was a whole different dynamic to the fact that it was like, okay, well, now there's 4 of them, and how does this work out? And it's always exciting when somebody's coming back from injury because they've been away for a while, so it gives you a chance to miss the person a little bit. Dare I say, I'm probably hard to miss. I think people like seeing me go away, but it was it just, the dynamic continued to change, and it felt like it changed when it needed to change. And so it kept it fresh, and it gave us a nice long run all together. And to be totally honest, there was not a person under contract. Like, there was not another person that could have been added to the 3 of us and work. Roddy was the only one. It was the only one that made any sense. And I think we realized it once we started walking it out, because you don't really know. And I don't think it was totally obvious right away, but once we got walking it out, it was like, man, this just fits like a glove.
And what was great about it too is, at the time, like I had watched Ring of Honor, so I knew the history, so to speak, with you 3 and Roddy as well. But NXT was so good that Roddy joining you guys was not at all expected. I mean, that just for someone like myself that followed Ring of Honor at the time, New Japan as well, but it was a complete shock to me. That's when NXT was doing it right. So,
well, you had strong characters all across the board. You had Heavy Machinery, and you had
Street Profits.
You had Malachi Black. You had strong characters across the board. So, like, you could see the 4 of us, even if you knew us previously from Ring of Honor and where Cole and Kyle, feuded, or Roddy and I, traded the TV title or whatever, you could still see it and believe it. And I think you could believe it because it was real, like behind closed doors. We're still to this day. I mean, we got a text thread between us where, we don't ever go more than a couple days and not somebody talk to somebody else.
That's awesome.
At least a text or something, or, it's pretty cool.
So, backtracking a little bit to the Takeover Brooklyn show where Adam debuted, the show's closing. It's you, Adam, and Kyle on the stage. Did you guys expect the reaction that you got at the end of that event?
I mean, I know when Kyle and I were waiting to go out, when we were going to make the first appearance, we were, we joked about, like, what if nobody knows who we are? And you always have that fear. And then that went well. So we kind of had an idea that we were swimming in deep waters, but we were swimming well. And so we figured same with Adam. I don't think any of us realized, I mean, I think we were hoping, but I don't know if any of us knew for sure that the crowd was going to repeat Bebe the way they did. And at that point, while standing on the stage with 2 of my best friends and looking at the Titantron or the, whatever above us, and seeing our faces on there and having the crowd say that back in unison with Adam was like, oh shit, they know exactly who we are. And that, that sort of confirmation for guys that, I'll speak for myself. I wasn't sure if I was ever going to WWE at times in my career for sure. You know, I mean, when I first came into professional wrestling, if you were over the age of 30 and you were not 6 foot, WWE was never going to even sniff you. So, you know, to be standing on the stage, all 4 of us, you know, stretching to be 5'9", and standing on that stage and having the confirmation of the however many thousand people were in that building. Yeah, pretty cool.
Man, so before I get into, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the War Games matches, but I had this come to my head just now. I got to ask you about it. How much fish can Bobby Fish fry if Bobby Fish could fry fish?
Bobby Fish is a vegan. However, I will say this. My wife and I, we've been vegan for about 2 years. We did, as of maybe 3 months ago, start to eat fish again. I'll say this. I haven't fried any fish. I generally do a lot of the cooking here at home. So I could have an answer to that any day now. Could be tomorrow. I don't know, but I'll get back to you.
Tell us real quick. Did you know that Riddle was going to say that? Did it catch you by surprise? Your thoughts just on that small little segment and people.
I don't recall if I knew. I don't think I did. Matt was one of those guys that kind of, I appreciated the unpredictability of him. And, none of us were guys that had only been doing this for 5 minutes. We've all been doing it like a good long time. So like ad lib and doing things on the fly was kind of the norm. So, yeah, I mean, I appreciated just being a part of it, like getting to have, that was awesome. That's the stuff that pro wrestling is supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun, and yeah, that was pro wrestling done right.
Okay, I'm glad we got to have that moment because I was remembering, man, WWE's got to capitalize on this. We need a shirt. We need something. Oh my goodness,
I felt like some money might have been left on the table.
Oh my goodness.
It definitely felt like a moment where Riddle's like, I'm going to keep this one in my back pocket and make the boys pop on TV.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was his MO. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So anyways, back to the script. I'm sorry. But you guys had the honor of not only being a part of the War Games match, but participating in 4 of the War Games matches. Just want to get your thoughts on. I can't even do William Regal's impression enough to even try to give it right. any credence. But the War Games match, your thoughts on it, just the concept, maybe any memories that you have of any of them.
Being a big fan of that time period in professional wrestling, the NWA and the Crockett years, like I said before, that's where the War Games came from. And when I was a kid, I definitely wore out the VHS tapes of the War Games. I watched them over and over and over. So to have that be brought back by people like Hunter and Sean, who I know were such fans of that wrestling. And then to be in this group with 3 of my best friends and us become kind of synonymous with the reintroduction of that match to this generation. It's kind of surreal. It's truly kind of surreal. I don't remember who coined the phrase, but somebody was calling us Hunter's Horsemen for a while. And any sort of comparison like that is just beyond humbling. Like I brought up Arn and Tully earlier. Obviously Ric Flair and Barry Windham and Lex Luger, Ole Anderson. I mean, any incarnation of that group, and to be mentioned in the same sentence is just ridiculous. The kid in me can't really get his brain around it. And then the War Games matches themselves were just so much fun to do. I mean, they were brutal, don't get me wrong, but they were so outside the box, so outside the ordinary. And we were the ones who were being tasked with bringing that back to this generation. So whatever we gave them was going to be either sink or swim. And, we had a great cast with guys like Tommaso and the War Raiders and Ricochet and Pete Dunne. Like we had some AOP, Sanity. We really had some great protagonists to bounce off of. But we were the ones that were in all of the first 4 War Games. So we became synonymous with the War Games.
Well, you guys set the bar high too. I mean, just absolutely knocked it out of the park to the point now. I think the last one they did, everyone was kind of underwhelmed, and it wasn't even bad. It wasn't like it was a bad match.
Right.
But when you look at what had already been set as the standard, it's like, man, you guys had some banger of a matches in the War Games, and so all of them phenomenal.
Four guys who don't break 5'10" set the bar too high. I love it.
Oh man,
I love it.
I mean, we could have an entire series of podcasts just solely on the Undisputed Era, but I know we're pushing it on time. We want to ensure we give a little bit of time to our viewers, specifically our Patreon members, to get some questions in as well. So I'll wrap up our portion of the interview with this. To your knowledge, were there any conversations, discussions of the Undisputed Era being brought up either to Raw or SmackDown? And if so, what were ideas that were presented?
There definitely were conversations. We went up to Raw and SmackDown. I don't remember exactly the time frame of it, but it was that one year. Kyle and I wrestled. Was it the Royal Rumble? And then that was the same year that Cole was
Survivor Series.
Yes, Survivor Series. I'm sorry.
When NXT was in the three.
Yeah. And I know, like on SmackDown, we came up and we jumped FTR, and Roddy and Cole jumped the New Day. We did a thing on Raw with Hunter, which again, another moment that was just surreal. So yeah, there was definitely talk and thought of it, but nothing really, nothing panned out, and it was always something that was going to be revisited. So I just think, like a lot of things in wrestling, we just didn't get there.
Yeah.
Well, man, this has been just a lot of fun getting to chat with you. I love how down to earth you are, and just willing to share your story and the things that you've gone through in your career. And like Alex said, we could do bajillions of podcasts to cover just so many things that are there. But before we get to our questions, so anybody that's in the chat right now, if you guys want to type any, again, we give our first dibs to questions to our Patreon members. So we'll get to those first, and if there's any time, we may grab one or two from you guys. But before we get to that, Bobby, if you wanted to highlight anything that's going on in your career right now, your pro wrestling tees, your podcast, any dates that you have coming up, anything like that, take a moment to tell us where we can find you on social media, all that good stuff. So the people.
Okay. So the first and foremost, I got to mention the Undisputed Podcast with Bobby Fish. We've been doing that now since September. We drop a new episode on Wednesdays. You can get that on all major platforms and available to watch on the Premiere Network exclusively. I would also like to mention bobbyfishapparel.com, bobbyfishapparel.com, where you can get all of your Bobby Fish needs, as well as the Undisputed Podcast. We do have t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, all that good stuff. All the merchandise is there at bobbyfishapparel.com. For booking inquiries, Frank Ferraro 3 at yahoo.com. Frank is one of the guys that does the Undisputed Podcast with me. He is affectionately known as one of the Demi Boys. But Frank Ferraro, Ferraro 3 at yahoo.com for any booking inquiries. You can reach me also at the Bobby Fish on Instagram or Twitter. Yeah. And I have some booking dates coming up. But let's get on to the questions, and then we can get to those dates if there's time. If not, let's
sounds good.
Sure.
So again, like Cole said, we give our first dibs to our Patreon members. So if you want to be part of that for future interviews, you can join us on Patreon at patreon.com/GoingBroadwayPodcast for as little as $5 a month. Some of our upcoming guests are actually some that Bobby has had on his podcast, including Eric Bischoff this upcoming Sunday on March the 5th. We've got John Alba joining us the week after on March 12th. Marcus Bagwell, who you just had on, joining us March 19th. We've got B. Brian Blair joining us March 27th. And we also have Jake Roberts, who you'll have on this week, actually.
Yes.
Jake Roberts is joining us the following month on April the 10th. So again, if you want to be part of getting your questions in and getting first dibs on those questions for our guests, join us on Patreon. So let's see what we got here. So our first question comes from Andrew Boehner. He says, first off, congratulations on your marriage last year.
Thank you, sir.
He says, secondly, what was it like learning from Triple H and NXT?
Awesome. The man understands this business in a way that I think few people do. There were a few instances, I won't go into detail, but just a few instances where, you come up in this business, you spend some time doing it. I got 20 some odd years in, and, you think, you think you got some stuff figured out. And then, we had an instance where something had to be changed, and I thought for sure, okay, well, what we got is now ruined. And what was changed was so simple, but it just seemed like it's going to be too simple, and it ended up being the best part of the match. So it was, I just learned in that moment, like I don't question his knowledge, like I just don't. He understands this business, and he's been doing it long enough that he gets it inside and out. So it was incredible to end him, Shawn Michaels. I mean, I remember there being a point where Scott Hall, Kevin Nash were at the PC to visit, and here I am sitting in a study room with DX. Or with the Click, I'm sorry, and they're trading stories, and it's not just me; it's me and my three best friends and some other people, Tommaso, and just surreal.
Just imagine being a fly on the wall in that room.
Right.
That's crazy.
I mean, truly, it was like something that like people would have paid good money for.
Real quick, something I dropped the ball on too, guys. If you're still watching us, we do have a free giveaway. We have a signed 8x10 of Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly that we're going to give away. So if you want to be entered into that drawing, we'll do that once Bobby has finished up with us. So reply with the word fish, FISH, and you'll be entered into that drawing, and we'll do that here shortly. Next question comes from Thomas Russell. He says, do you prefer working as a singles or a tag team wrestler?
I enjoy both. I hate to give such an arbitrary neutral answer, but I enjoy both. Obviously, if I'm tagging with Kyle, that changes the dynamic. If it's just a random tag match. But if I have a chance to tag with Kyle or Adam or Roddy, like, I'm not passing it up, especially Kyle. But I'm you ask me on Monday and I'll say tag team wrestling, and you ask me on Tuesday and I'll say singles. So
yep,
it changes.
This next question also comes from Thomas. He asks, do you have a list of favorite matches and or opponents?
I really enjoyed some of the War Games matches. I remember the second War Games, really have some fond memories of that one. There was a match at TakeOver Philadelphia where Kyle and I worked AOP, where we wrestled AOP. And that's one of my favorites. Paul Ellering's on the outside. I'm a big Crockett Cup, years guy. Paul Ellering's on the outside, and AOP is like a modern day Road Warriors.
Right.
And then here Kyle and I are, and we get to be Arn and Tully, so just pretty cool. Pretty cool. And we even, snuck away with the win, with a cheap win. So, yeah, that's a couple that right off the top of my head.
Couple more questions, and we won't keep you too much longer.
No worries.
Asper Nemo MK on Twitch asks, what is your dream retirement match?
I don't think it could ever happen because he just retired, but just because he was my favorite, but the Great Muda, I would love to have had an opportunity to share the ring with him. And I know a lot of people of my generation have. I think his retirement match was against someone that I worked with quite a bit in Noah, but Nomichi Marufuji. I think that's who he wrestled for his retirement match.
Well, okay, so this is what confused me because I didn't watch the event, but he wrestled. I think you might have been correct on that, but then he had a brief
6-man the next day.
Well, yeah.
Or something.
So he had a brief match with Masahiro Chono. Like he came up from out back from the commentary. Again, I didn't watch it. I just read about it. But he had like a quick match where Chono tapped him out with the STF. So technically that was his retirement match. It was just like a spontaneous.
I don't know.
But
yeah,
I don't know. That'd
be the answer to the question for me is, Muda, because I'm a big fan.
So a question for my benefit, as well as anyone watching that might be interested. So I've admittedly not watched as much Pro Wrestling Noah as I would have liked to.
Mm-hmm.
Any specific matches of yours? Like if you had to pick out one match of yours during your Pro Wrestling Noah stint, what would it be?
I don't really know. There was, those were like formative years for me. Like I was really learning. So to look back at a lot of those, I don't think I had found myself yet as a performer. I really don't. So I don't know. There were one of the last years I worked there, Eddie Edwards and I tagged in their tag league tournament. I do remember a few of those matches being pretty good.
Okay.
But I get, yeah. Nothing else really sticks out too much. There were definitely some smaller town shows where I got opportunities to do some work with Kenta, who I was a big fan of at the time. his style had a ton of influence on me. Somebody compared him recently to the Dynamite Kid in like his influence over this generation being Dynamite Kid-esque. Is the way that Dynamite kind of influenced so many in his generation, and I think that's a great analogy, because I really think like the martial arts MMA based influence stuff, like I don't know if there was anybody doing it better than Kenta during the Noah years, and I would say like him and Samoa Joe still to this day, I think maybe do it better than anybody else. That MMA infused, inspired sort of gimmick. I think they were kind of the standard bearers. Bryan Danielson too, and now like I don't know, call me cocky, but Kyle and myself, I think we do it better than anybody too.
So let's do one more question here from Cartoon Network, aka David Tilley. He asks, was there any ever conversations about you, Adam, and Kyle holding the AEW Trios belt before you had left AEW?
Yes, there was conversations for sure. I don't know what happened. Again, above my pay grade, but there were a lot of plans that were possibilities, but nothing is ever set in stone in professional wrestling until it happens. So
Right.
it just is what it is. I think there were lots of different ways we could have gone with stuff there. We just didn't get to it.
Yep. Well, we want to be respectful of your time. Unfortunately, it's going to about do it for us, but
Good.
It's been an honor to chat with you. We appreciate you joining us tonight.
It's been a blast, guys.
I agree. This is so much fun. We'd love to have you back on with us down the road if and when you have time. So
yes, sir.
But again, thank you so much, and
I'll let Jason Shingleton know I said I got a chance to chat with you, and dude, just gotta say I absolutely love your style of wrestling. You make wrestling in the ring feel real. It's a very true art form that you bring to the table. Big fan, and so just thank you so much for taking time to be with us on tonight and to talk wrestling and whatnot. So really appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate that, and those are more than flattering and very, very kind words. I'm glad that what my intent is for my pro wrestling does come across, and that some people, they see that, because that's important to me.
Good stuff. Bobby, thanks again for joining us, and
thank you, guys.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Man. Good stuff.
Yeah, I enjoy when we get a chance to talk to people that really feel like they got a good grasp on the business and have been around too. When he's been able to go all over the place, and like you said, really cool time in his career to be able to do anything and everything. So yeah, so we want to get to these. We got a couple business things to take care of here. We got our Going Broadway podcast video game pay-per-view belt raffle to get to, as well as the free giveaway here for the 8x10. So Alex, take it away.
And I remembered this time, so we'll do these real quick. So we're gonna do the signed 8x10 giveaway first, and I just want to make sure name for name we got all this pulled up here.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna address this.
Indeed, we do.
Them doing a podcast or some kind of, even if it's a one-time 2-hour special where they just sit down and talk stories, the four of them in one room together would be absolutely insane. Just to have them share their text thread, whatever. Like they need to get on something. I think that needs to happen for sure.
Yeah, 100%. All right. So we're good on names. So again, this is the drawing for the signed 8x10 of Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. We do 10 clicks, and whose ever name pops up will be our winner after the 10th click. So here we go. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Click number 10 is our winner, and it will be, I'm going to be awful at pronouncing this, but Grogny.
I see it here. I don't know how to pronounce that either.
I don't know either, but
YouTube, right? I think it's
yeah.
a YouTube watcher
Yep.
right now. Grogny. If you could send us a message there on YouTube or through any of our other social medias.
Does YouTube have messaging? I don't think they do. You might have to message us through one of our
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch.
Basically, all we need is a good a mailing address. But I will say we only ship within the lower 48 states for free. If you live internationally, you'd be responsible for some of the shipping costs. So yeah, reach out to us. You do have 24 hours to contact us, whether it's through our Facebook page. You can message us on Twitter as well. Facebook, Twitch, Twitter. Feel free to send us a message and we'll get you hooked up with that.
The answer as of now would be no. We are already trying to get a new show date you're in Iowa. Great. Send us your information on Facebook, on our Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter. If you have Twitch is fine as well. And we will get that sent out to you. Congrats again one more time to you. But yes, guys, we are trying to find a new day. I think we are looking at Mondays and we will get to you as soon as possible once we know what that new official start time and all that will be. But we have some other guests that are coming up, and so we want to kind of get through the schedule that we currently have right now before we kind of finalize that. So we will be in touch on that. But I want to take a quick second as we transition to this other raffle. Alex has already mentioned it earlier in the show. We do have other guests that are coming up in the next couple of weeks. We have Eric Bischoff next Sunday, I believe at our normal starting time. 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So make sure that you join us for that. We are doing another giveaway. It's an announced giveaway for the Eric Bischoff interview. So join us, invite your friends. That's going to be a really great conversation. I'm excited for that one. The following week, we have John Alba. He'll be with us on 3/12 at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. The week after that, we have Marcus Bagwell, 3/19 at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And following that, we will have Brian Blair. We do not have a graphic for that, but he will be with us the following week. And then shortly
that'll
after
be a special Monday podcast. That'll be on the 27th.
Special Monday. And then we'll have Jake the Snake Roberts with us as well on 4/10/23, and that's going to be a special start time of 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. So make sure you mark those on your calendar, get them on there. We do have a few more guests that we'll announce here soon that are on the radar, I should say. So we'll get to that. But I want to take a quick second to say thank you to all of you guys who participated in our first Going Broadway podcast pay-per-view that we did, our gaming pay-per-view, Love and War. Would be so proud of Cole. Wow. So just want to thank you guys for being a part of it. We had an absolute blast. We had a great turnout. And if you're in our Discord, which I'll get to that in just a moment.
Just a heads up, I can't stay on too long. So
okay, I'll wrap it up. I posted the results there and the ratings that WWE's game gave it, just because that's fun to do. But our main event, guys, of that card was absolutely insane. I'm pretty sure Undertaker got thrown off the top of the cell like 3 times. Stone Cold got thrown off twice. Taker went through a table from off top of the cell. They went through the cell. They broke the cell. It was like, wow. Like it was just a really great match. We had some other good ones on the card. And you guys made it a lot of fun. And this is going to be available to everyone starting tomorrow. This won't be a Patreon exclusive. This is just going to be dropped on our social medias. I will drop the name and the date of our next pay-per-view tomorrow on all of our social medias, and then we will get the brackets opened up, if you will, the entries opened up, if you will, to our Patreon members. Which reminds me to mention one more time, if you would like to become a Patreon member, you can do so. Alex will put the little ticker across the bottom of the screen, and for just $5 a month, it'll get you early access to select the wrestler that you would like and the match that you would like to be a part of. So you'll want to do that to get involved with that, to get early access, as well as getting your questions read here for the upcoming guests that we have to be a part of that. And then also just a quick reminder that if you're on Twitch is our exclusive platform. So make a Twitch account and consider subscribing to that. It's $4.99 a month, but it gets rid of all the ads, so you don't have to worry about that during the pay-per-views. You don't have to worry about that if you're watching for interviews. And we'll start to do our watch parties and all that good stuff eventually. You're going to want to have that taken away. So
yeah, those ads are the worst whenever we're doing our watch parties. So
for sure. So I think I covered everything. I got to give just a shout out to those who participated one more time to Love and War. You guys did everyone I think had a great showing in it. Thomas Russell kind of cleaned up a majority. I think he's got 4 entries. Andrew Boehner was in second. He had 3.
Yep.
And then I think Stacy and Bruce
each had 1.
Snuck in there with 1. So it only takes 1 to win, y'all. We've seen it happen before.
Yeah, Mark Dodd won our 12 Days of Christmas literally with 1 entry.
1 entry. So good luck to all of you guys. We're going to get that going right now, and we'll see who wins the belt.
Well, and by the way, guys, we do have a new cash out option. If you'd rather just get paid instead of have a belt made, that is also an option.
Money's on the table.
It is on the table. It's generally a little bit less than what a belt would cost to have made on our end, but it's still an option. If you're like Stacy, I'm a number of belts, maybe you don't want any more and you just want to get paid. So, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Click number 10 is Andrew Boehner wins it.
There it is.
Andrew Boehner is our winner. So congratulations to Andrew. And like Cole said, we'll give you guys the dates soon on our next e-gaming pay-per-view, so to speak. But it is not about that time. It is well since past that time. Cole, any final thoughts?
Guys, as always, thank you for watching the greatest wrestling podcast ever. Congratulations to Andrew Boehner for being our first winner of the Love and War Going Broadway Podcast pay-per-view. And guys, keep in touch. Also, make sure you go follow our Instagram. Like, stop playing with me. Go get on our Instagram. Tell people about it. We're trying to get that Instagram back up. So go follow us on that. But as always, guys, we had a great interview tonight. I hope to get our clips up from our Kylie Ray interview. I'm slacking on that one. I got to get it done. And from tonight, so we can keep the interviews flowing with little snippets with all the guests that we have coming up. So,
and thanks again to Bobby Fish. I don't know if he'll watch this, but if he does, Bobby, thanks again. That was so much fun.
So much fun. What a great conversation we had tonight. So, as always, guys, I will leave you with your favorite thing in the entire world.
I decided I'm going to do the Seth Rollins laugh. That's going to be my thing. So
there it is.
To close with, guys, we'll see you next week with Eric Bischoff.